Hello, guys, and welcome to God Allows U-Turns. My name is Sarah, and as always, I'm very excited to come to you every day with a little message. I haven't been able to record for the past couple of months for different reasons, but don't call it a comeback. I've been here before, and I'm not going anywhere until God tells me so. And today I want to talk about something that has really been close to my heart. It's one of those things that really hurt my heart because it had to do with my son, and it was something that I had never dealt with before in my family, with myself, with with nothing of that sort. And there was not enough information out there for me to really understand what was going on. My church at the time did not really have enough information either. And so it was hard for me to get over that and find help for my son. Um, as you all know, since COVID and even before our kids have been subject to anxiety, depression, um, mood swings, and lack of motivation, basically. Like I said, the COVID situation has only made it worse. But my son suffered from anxiety, and this was a couple of years ago before COVID. And I was not able to understand it or to even pinpoint what it was. I thought he was just being a teenager, and it was his difficult years, and that eventually it would go away. But something was telling me this is not right. And the symptoms that I saw in my son, the changes that I saw, there were really drastic changes, because my son was always you know happy and obedient and very you know school oriented and in sports, and he was just a normal, typical, beautiful kid. And all of a sudden I started to notice these changes. And some of the changes were him wearing the same clothes over and over again, never wanted to leave the house, overeating, um, mood swings. Um, he would be in a great mood one moment, and then in the next, he would just, wanted to just be in his room most of the time. He spent a lot of time in his room, did not want to, leave the room. And as much as I tried to understand him and love him, kiss him, um, there was nothing that I could have done because I didn't have the tools to help him. So I basically, the first thing what I did was I got on my knees. I got on my knees and I cried out to God. I cried out to God like I never, or like perhaps in a long time, had cried to him. And I was just like, Lord, this is my son. He is yours. His heart is yours. His mind is yours. Set him free from this. Whatever this is, set him free. And I kept praying over and over for him. I started to look at information at Google, and I finally found certain information that really related to him. And so I went to the school counselor and I spoke to her, and I told her about the problems that I was having. And she told me, she goes, look, he's exhibiting symptoms of anxiety. And this year, which was a couple of years ago, that she said to me, she goes, this year, our kids with anxiety had double in amount. had doubled in quantity from last year. In other words, they had a lot of kids with anxiety. So much so that she decided to create a group, a support group for the kids, so that they would have a time that they could talk about how they were feeling and do some kind of, um, projects and things that would help them overcome that anxiety and help them in their studies. Because one of the things that anxiety does is like they lose all interest in school and they don't care if they get bad grades. They don't want to do sports anymore or any extracurricular activities that they were doing before, and they seem to really enjoy it. They don't they don't enjoy it anymore. So when I found out, that that's what it was, I went directly to the pediatrician and I explained to him everything that I knew about it. And of course, he knew more than I did. And he spoke to Alex and my son, and he basically uh, he talked to him like a friend. I have a great pediatrician. I can't complain. He talked to him like if he was his buddy, and told him, that he understood him, that everything was going to be okay. Um, and the visits to the pediatrician came more often, and he started to feel, a little bit better when he was at the pediatrician. However, my worry was that uh, getting him to church. He used to go to church and have a great time and loved it. But this time, he wasn't very sure. He didn't want to actually leave the car to enter church. And usually we would sit in the front, but he wanted to sit in the back. And from the back, he left. He would go outside and he would text me and said, "Mom, I'm feeling anxious, so I'm here outside." Now, when it comes to my son, I have no pride whatsoever. I will beg anybody that I have to, but my son will get better. That was my mentality. I have always been able to have a good relationship with my son, talk to him about anything. And the fact that I couldn't break this wall really was really hard for me. And it called for desperate measures. So whenever he would go outside the church and he didn't want to come in, I would go to the youth leader and I would tell him, "Look, my son is outside. He's feeling anxious. He doesn't want to come in. Please go outside and pray for him." And so he would pray for him, and Alex would feel better. And every time that something would happen, I would drag the youth leaders and would make them help him. I would say, go out to lunch with him. Get him involved with the youth. Do something. Like kids need help. And for some reason, a lot of churches, they just focus on the kids that are more personable and have a better they exhibit leadership skills more so than the quiet ones. And it's time for the youth leaders to really pay attention to all the kids, especially the ones that are quiet, especially the ones that come from broken homes, that seem to have problems. Those are the ones that youth leaders should always worry about and give a type of precedence to. So my son came from a good home. We were all happy. We always prayed. This was something completely that caught us off guard. Now, there are different types of anxiety. My son had what is called anticipatory anxiety, which means basically that he needs to know what's going to happen before he decides to do something. He doesn't really enjoy surprises very much. Um, he needs to know how long it's going to take, where is he going, what the people in there would be like, and so on and so forth. He's always been like that since he was little. And I confused, I thought, well, that's his personality. He has to know what's going on. He has, if we go to the store, why are we going to the store? What are we going to get? How long are we going to be there? I mean, it's constantly like that. What are we having for dinner today? It's a constant worry about, what he's going to do, what's going to happen before he um, makes a decision to do something. So I always thought, he's just like that. But as he got older, it kind of got worse because that feeling of fear, got a hold of him to the point that he could not enjoy the activities he used to do before because he was constantly thinking, what's going to happen. And it's kind of combination of that and the Murphy's Law that says that if something will go wrong, it will. So it's I always have to ease him into things, make him sure that, it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. You're not going to do anything that you don't want to do. I'm not going to force you to do anything that you don't want to do. And I never force him. I always give him an option. Would you like to do this or would you like to do this? I want to create options for him. I don't want to make him do something that he's not going to like, or he's going to do it to make me happy, even though it's going to make him miserable. And so that's basically, what his problem was. But he also had social anxiety, which means that he had an anxiety and a fear of being in crowded places without, not knowing the people that were there. He really doesn't like crowds that much. And so beginning high school was very detrimental for him. And he could not go like the first few days. It was impossible for him to get in there and begin high school. And I totally understood that because I went to high school myself, to his high school, to see what it was like. And it was chaos. There were hundreds of kids just walking back and forth, and people would just, would kind of, hit you with their book bags, and everybody was in a hurry to get to their classroom. You really didn't know many people, and it was very, very hard. I could tell it was overwhelming for him because it was overwhelming for me. So we prayed a lot about it. The church youth prayed for him and helped him a lot too. This was a combined effort. This was something that us as a family, we work with. The church worked with that as well, and the school. We involved all three areas because this is not something that you could just do on your own. Okay. Never think, oh, I can handle this on my own. Just take him to the doctor, give him some medicine, and he'll be fine. No. Create, like I said before, a circle of support for your child, because you're going to get overwhelmed. You're going to feel like, oh Lord, what is step 2? How do I get to this step? I mean, what do I do? Try to find other parents who perhaps have been through the same thing that you have been through. I'm sure they have. People don't like to talk about this. They like to stay quiet, and they don't like to talk about the problems that their child has. They always like to keep it quiet. But I'm sure that a lot of parents are going through the same thing. And my son would tell me that the way that the kids would cope in school with this, it's that they would smoke pot or they would take, little candy with, made out of pot or CBD or something like that. Something, any type of drug that would help them ease their anxiety. Sometimes the parents knew they were in it, and sometimes they didn't. And some parents are actually endorse this, for their kids because they don't know what else to do. But it's your responsibility as a parent that your child feels better, that your child gets better, that your child is set free. And one of the things that I always tell parents you have to do, if you're going to depend on just the doctors and, you know, don't expect much, because a lot of the doctors, what they like to do is like they like to medicate the kids. And I suggest that you would take your child to a psychologist and have cognitive behavioral therapy, which basically means that they're going to sit with your child and talk to them. um, they're going to have a session. Your child is going to need a few sessions, and I'm telling you, it's going to work. And you might say, well, my child can talk to me. I'm always available. Why do I need to, to take him to a psychologist? Because that's what they're for. Because they are well prepared in this type of situation, and getting your child to feel better, and to not only feel better but overcome. You want him to overcome this. You don't want them to have this for the rest of his life. You want him to have the tools that when he's out into the world, whether it be school or whether it be at work, that he'll be able to have the tools to say, wait a minute, I can do this. This is not stronger than me. I can actually beat this. And that is what you want. That is your job as a parent. They must have a hobby. They must have something that they need to put all that energy into it, because anxiety takes a lot of energy from them, and so they need to have something. And I'm telling you, my son used to overeat, because the anxiety would cause him that. I never criticized him, never called him fat, never criticized his eating habits. I simply told him, honey, there are other things that you can eat that are healthier than that. That's it. That's all I would say to him. Um, and I would buy things that perhaps he could like that were better than what he was eating. But I let him come to that decision. I never wanted to impose my views on him, because they did that to me when I was younger and it didn't work. So I wanted him to just come to that decision himself. So I praise God that he decided to take bodybuilding. He completely changed his eating habits. He increased his protein intake. He did it with the doctor. He lost, I think it must have been like 40 pounds. And he is pure muscle. I mean, and that's what he does. Every day without fail, he goes downstairs. He has like his little gym, and he does weightlifting every day. That's what he does, weightlifting. And that really takes the stress away and helps him sleep better. And the last thing that I would like you to do with him is to have communication with your child. And you may say, well, I talk to him every day, ask him how school was. And no. That's not communication. Asking him how school is, that is something that he's going to answer and say, good, and that's it. That's not the kind of communication that I'm talking about. I'm talking about open-ended questions. I'm talking about if you want to know how your child is doing emotionally, you don't ask him, so how are you doing emotionally today? Are you sad? Do you feel depressed? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel... No. They're not adults. So you have to start in a different way. And I'll give you an example. You can say to him, what would you like to eat today? Because especially him, because he's in this very strict protein diet. What would you like to eat today? I think I would like some chicken and rice. How would you like your chicken cooked? Well, I like it in the pan. You know, you put some Pam on it and and have like a stir fry type of thing. Also, you enjoy stir fry. Yeah, I like it. You know, um, are there any restaurants that we can eat that'll be high in protein, that'll be, you know, will be healthy or whatever. And then he would start talking about that, and and then I would say, does it make you feel better when you eat a lot of protein? Does it, you know? And that's how you kind of get into their world. That's how you kind of get into their conversation. But you don't talk to them like they are adults. You don't talk to them and expect the same answers that you would to an adult. If I was talking to my husband, I would ask him, "Did you feel anxious today? Did you have a good day today?" And he would expand and he would tell me, and he, you know, that's how adults communicate. But with kids, it's different. It's very different, and it's your responsibility. Remember that it's not the school's responsibility. It's not the church's responsibility. All these things help, but it's you. They look up to you. They want to know that you care about them. They want to know that they can count on you for anything. That they can talk to you about drugs, that they can talk to you about sex, that they can talk to you about anything, and you're not going to be like, oh, what did you just say? No. Just, it doesn't matter how petrified you are to answer a question, just keep a normal face and find the way right there. You ask God in his mind, say in your mind, you say, Lord, please help me give him the correct answer to this. Not the answer that a parent should give, but what you would say. Let me be his friend, okay? You are his mother, but you're also his friend. And you have to draw the line and make sure that you know exactly when is the time to be a mom and when is the time to be a child. I'm sorry, a friend. And last but not least, I want you to read Philippians 4:6-8. Philippians 4:6-8 is a very important verse, and read it to him tonight before he goes to bed. Say, hey, I want to share a verse with you, which in Philippians 4 6-8, basically God is telling you to not be anxious, you know, but to pray with thanksgiving. So don't pray with depression like, Lord, here I am. No, with thanksgiving. There's always something that you can give thanks to God for. There's always something to be thankful for. You know, even during these COVID times, you know, us Christians, we're victorious. We're not scared. We know that we are in God's hands. Make sure you pass that joy to your child. Every day you have to remind him, because every day they hear bad news about COVID. So every day you have to remind them, honey, we are in God's hands. COVID or no COVID, Delta, whatever it is, okay? We're safe because we have Jesus with us. So it doesn't matter what happens. And the cool thing about this verse in Philippians is that God acknowledges that there is anxiety. Anxiety exists, that we will feel anxious. That is normal. Okay? But he's telling us to cast that anxiety on him, you know, because he cares for us. You know, he actually cares for us. The creator of heaven and earth cares for us. But he wants us to give our cares to him every day on our knees. Lord, I know that you know, but I want to tell you how I feel in my heart, and pass that on to your child. Remember, it's our responsibility that our children love God from the time they're small. And there's no big problem that God cannot help you solve. If you have any questions about anxiety or anything like that, comments that you want to make, you can leave them below. I would love to hear them, and I would love for you to share any stories that you may have. God bless you, and I see you next time.